How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Boylei Hobby Time. This week I'm building a little scene depicting a xenomorph from Alien sneaking up on one of these soldiers. I printed 3 different models sent to me from Model Creator, and this is the one I decided on to be the subject of my diorama. For the base, I cut up a piece of wood into a little square and I began planning the layout. I wanted to have the soldier on a sidewalk with the corner of a building visible. I drew some guidelines at a 90-degree angle, rounded the corner, and transferred that shape onto a sheet of corkboard, and cut it with my hobby knife. After cutting some nice clean sides, I cut a not so nice unclean corner and some uneven contraction joints. This sidewalk probably won't be doing much weather-related expanding and contracting, because it's a miniature and not made of concrete, but it's better to be safe than sorry. I glued that down to another piece of cork. I filed down the unclean corner to make it nice and clean again. Then it was time to work on the corner of the building that would be visible. I peeled the paper off of some foam core and I cut the core into 2 strips to be the walls. I glued those together, then I sanded down the seam before reinforcing the walls with some very strong foam triangles. I used some strips of styrene to act as pieces of trim to go along the base of the walls. I put a slightly larger triangle at the top to close the gap. To break up the large flat surface and imply a second story, I added a little ledge made from some more foam core. Then I covered the whole thing in a mixture of Mod Podge and paint. I did the same thing on the sidewalk. Once the Mod Podge and paint were dry, I stippled on some spackling paste to help hide that ugly seam and make it look a little bit more like a wall. I picked up some 1:35 scale exterior wall greeblies from my local hobby store. I also bent this little metal rod to be a conduit running from a junction box up the wall and bending around the corner. I then took all my little bits outside and I primed them black. I also took my little piece of sidewalk outside and gave it a shade of gray. I just received this package in the mail and I am super stoked about it. It is quite an upgrade and is definitely going to get me more excited about miniature painting. This new airbrush was a gift from my dad. My dad is one of the most generous people I know and has been one of the biggest supporters of this channel. Encouraged me to pursue art and develop my creativity through my whole childhood. Without him, it's likely that this YouTube channel wouldn't exist, especially if I had never been born. So thanks, Dad. The airbrush that I've been using since basically the beginning of this channel is a great entry-level airbrush, and I would recommend for all starters to begin on something like that. I would definitely not appreciate the quality of this airbrush without having first learned everything on the other one. I didn't really like the base color that I had painted the sidewalk, so I used some Isopropyl Alcohol and a sponge to remove most of that color, and I was actually pretty happy with how that looked. Then I put the condensing unit and all the other bits on the wall. Once those were on, I used some guitar string to create a flex tube, connected the condensing unit and the breaker box to power. I tied everything together with a dusty color from the airbrush. I was happy with how that was looking, and in order to protect it before adding any washes, I took it outside and I gave it a coat with a matte varnish. Once that was dry, applied a black wash to the entire base, and then I scraped it away with a sponge and paper towel. I then worked some light Vallejo mud into the seam along the base of the wall, as well as the joints on the sidewalk. Once I had scraped the excess away with a sponge, I was left with a natural looking amount of dirt buildup in all of the lines. I also added some spots of rust where rust would have naturally built up and left some streaks on the wall after a rain, including the bolts on the brackets and a few other points along the conduit. After that, I put some watered down glue into a few places, and I sprinkled on some flocking to bring some life to the base. After that, the base was pretty much done, and it was time to finish the paint job on the soldier. Like I mentioned earlier, I got this figure from my friends at Model Creator. Model Creator will be a platform where you can customize figures for scale models, dioramas, and wargames, and have a physical copy sent to you or get an STL for home printing. Other platforms like it exist. Most of those are fantasy-based with exaggerated heroic scale features. Model Creator will have anatomically correct, real-world military figures, both current and historical, and eventually they hope to open it up to other historical themes as well. Their Kickstarter is live right now. You should go check it out. They're not paying me to say any of this. I just wanted to do them a favor because I believe in it, and I want to see it become a reality as soon as possible. I found the Xenomorph Stl on CG Trader. I'll drop a link to that below as well. I painted that up real fast with some dry brushing and a glossy black spray paint. Then I clean up my workspace before moving on to the final steps. I then painted the sides of the base of the diorama with some black 3.0, of course. I installed the little soldier and the Xenomorph, and I called it good. That is it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Huge shout out, as always, to my patrons. You guys are great. Please do go check out that Kickstarter if you have a minute. Otherwise, have a great week, everyone. See you next time.